Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is MD Didaul Islam and today I am here to discuss a very important topic called Network Address Translation or NAT. Now, let's discuss what is NAT. Network Address Translation is a networking technique that allows multiple devices on a private network to share a single public IP address. It's a critical aspect of modern networking, enabling private networks to connect to the internet. Now, network is divided into two types. The first one is private networks, and the second one is public networks. So, in private networks, organizations often use private IP addresses within their internal networks for better security and resource management. Whether in public networks, devices on a private network need to communicate with devices on the public internet. Net translates private addresses to public addresses. Now, let's discuss the overall procedure of NET, which means how NAT functions. In the first step, a device on the private network requests access to a resource on the public internet. Secondly, the NET device intercepts the request and translates the private IP address of the device to its own public IP address. Thirdly, the net device forwards the request to the public internet using its public IP address. Fourthly, the public internet server responds to the request, sending data back to the net device. And in the next device translates the IP address back to the private IP address of the originating device. Last but not the least, the device receives the response, completing the communication. Now, let's discuss net inside and outside addresses. Inside addresses, these are private IP addresses used within a local network, typically in the ranges. For your better understanding, I just read one of them, which is 10.0.00, 10.255.255.255, and the etc. other things. Whether outside addresses, these are public IP addresses used on the internet assigned by internet service providers, which means ISPs, and accessible globally. Now, net is classified into three types. The first one is static net, second one is dynamic net, and the third one is port address translation. Static net, a one-to-one mapping between a private IP address and a public IP address. In dynamic net, a many-to-one mapping where multiple private IP addresses share a single public IP address. And in PAT, a variation of dynamic net that uses port numbers to differentiate between multiple devices sharing a single public IP address. Now, let's elaborate these three particular types for our better and deep understanding. Now, static net. StaticNet gives each device a unique public IP address. This ensures consistent external access. It's ideal for servers needing reliable connections. In terms of security, this dedicated IP improves security. Tracking and isolating attacks is easier, and this protects sensitive data and services as well. Now, Dynamic Net. Flexibility. Dynamic Net adjusts to network changes, assigning public IPs as needed. Great for networks with many users. Secondly, efficiency. Saves on public IP addresses, letting many devices share a few. A cost effective choice. And thirdly, scalability. Handles lots of devices at once, perfect for large networks with many users. And last but not the least is port address translation. Port numbers. PAT uses unique 16-bit port numbers for each internet connection. Unique IDs. Each device gets a unique port, allowing many devices to share one public IP address. Efficient IP use. Saves public IP addresses, ideal for networks with many devices. How it works. The procedure of is this: the net router assigns a unique port number. The public IP and port create a unique connection address. So now, how can NET help transition to IPv6? First one is address conservation. NET can extend the life of IPv4 addresses by allowing multiple devices to share a single public IP address. Second, migration strategy. It can act as a bridge between IPv4 and IPv6 networks, facilitating a gradual transition to IPv6. Now, advantages of NET. Address conservation. NET allows multiple devices to share a single public IP address, extending the life of IPv4 addresses. Enhanced security. NET helps protect internal networks by hiding private IP addresses from external networks. Simplified network management. NET simplifies network management by reducing the number of public IP addresses needed. And lastly, improved performance. NET can improve network performance by reducing the number of connections that need to be established. Now, in spite of having so many advantages, there are many disadvantages of net as well. So let's focus on that. First one is breaks end-to-end connectivity. Net disrupts direct communication between devices, causing problems for applications like VoIP, gaming, and peer-to-peer services. Second one is performance overhead. Net adds processing delays on routers as every package requires address and port translation. Incompatibility with some protocols. Protocols embedding IP information in their payload, example SIP or FTP, may not work without special configurations. Then, here is complicates troubleshooting. Net obscures internal IPs, making it harder to diagnose network issues or trace connections. Last but not the least is limited port availability. A finite number of ports per public IP can lead to bottlenecks in large networks. That's all about for today. Thank you so much for hearing me with gentle patience. And if you want such kind of videos like that, please subscribe my channel.